Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show, where we're super excited this week to start getting into some topics where we're starting to talk some schemes, some X's and O's stuff. Really welcomed and pumped up to have Coach Stephenson from Bonneville, the head football coach from the Bonneville Bees in Idaho, on the show tonight, and we'll get into some air raid / spread offense type stuff as we're discussing that tonight. Every week when we go on this offensive system journey, we're going to have different guys come on and talk about different systems. We may repeat some systems, but we'll try to cover as many as we possibly can. We got multiple air raid guys coming on. Excited to have some wing T guys coming on. Even talk a little bit about mixing wing T and veer here in the coming weeks. So please, before we get going, do me a favor and like and subscribe Blue and Gold Gridiron Show so you won't miss any of our content coming up. I think we have some good guests coming on. Certainly have a really good one tonight that we're excited about. So please like and subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. It's totally free. Does not take very long. Takes you 2 clicks. So please do that. That would certainly be appreciated as we try and grow our audience and reach more coaches around. I know I have personally really enjoyed this thus far. We did 5 episodes on program building, which was really a lot of fun and exciting. We're going to touch on that a little bit with Coach Stephenson as well, because he just finished up his first year as the head football coach at Bonneville. So we'll start talking about some topics that way as well. He has a very interesting story. He was in another state while he was starting up, trying to get some of his culture and different things instilled at Bonneville. So that's certainly a challenge. He was going back and forth a little bit and doing all sorts of things. So we're excited to examine that tonight as well. So, but before we do that, we should maybe take a moment here, and we are going to make some Super Bowl picks. So I'll give myself and anybody else a chance to be wrong, and obviously excited about the big game tonight. So I thought about this a lot before I wanted to make a pick on this, because everything in my football brain tells me the Eagles are going to win tonight. Every single thing. However, the Chiefs always find a way to win. So as much as I believe that the fact that the Eagles have the best offensive line in football, Saquon Barkley, tremendous defense, I'm still going to have to go with the Chiefs. They're going to find some way to win at the end, like they always seem to, and I'm going to go with a final of 27-24 Chiefs tonight. I hope I'm wrong, but that is my pick for tonight's ball game. So I'm going to turn over to our guest, Coach Stephenson, and he can give us our pick, and then we'll hear from Coach Brusso as well.
Well, I'm kind of the conspiracy theory guy. So, like when the Patriots are going to go undefeated and they've somehow lost it, well, this will be the first time a team can three-peat a championship. So I'm thinking the Eagles are going to pull it off and get the win because, I don't know, I think they're just winning too much and but who knows? So I'm going to go Eagles probably 28-21.
I'm really hoping the Eagles can pull it out. Everything in my football brain tells me it's just not going to happen because it never does when it comes to the Chiefs. They always find a way, which is unfortunate for most of America. So we're trying to manifest an Eagles victory here.
All right. Well, we're going to get into the topic at hand before Coach shares his screen and talks to us and coaches us through some key concepts in his arsenal. Give a little introduction for Coach. He is, like I said, the head football coach at Bonneville High School. Last year, in his first year, playing one of the toughest schedules in Idaho, led Bonneville to the state playoffs. He was our offensive coordinator at Prescott High School, where we broke virtually every passing record we had. Passing game coordinator at Millennium High. Head football coach at Highland Prep in 2020, where he took them to the CAA state title game. Also has collegiate experience, coached collegiately at Carroll College and Mayville State University, was the offensive line coach at Helena High, where they also played a state title game in 2017. Played 6 years of prep semi-pro football and also coached at that level. So really excited to have Coach on and looking forward to diving in to the topic at hand. So, first question that we're going to look at before we get into you kind of sharing your system about is one of the Coach Brusso and I were kind of examining different questions to ask, and first one that we decided on was, what do you think about your offensive system gives you an advantage?
The biggest thing is we're an air raid structure, but it's more of a power raid because um, we want to run the ball too, but the reason I kind of like this is just different pieces of different offenses kind of put together because when I was a young coach at Helena High, I realized one year, we were a beer offense, and then the next year we were something else based on what personnel we had. And so that was kind of like what got the gears going for me is like what system can we do that will play to the strengths that we have. So like last year, our offensive line wasn't super. Um, we just had a hard time blocking. We only ran for like 700 and some yards, but they could for some reason they could pass block really well for quick game, and so that's a lot of our stuff. We did a lot of quick game stuff, some run and shoot stuff, and we threw for 2100 yards, something like that. So it was a pretty tough schedule. So this next year will be a little bit different. We have some bigger backs that will probably our line will probably average 300 pounds across the board. So we're probably going to run the ball and have more play action pass off of that. So
300 pounds is pretty darn stout. Now this is maybe the most important question for any air raid guy. Do you guys practice defense?
yeah, yeah. So we we our school is actually smaller than your guys' school, but we most of our kids play only one way. So we had about we probably had 90 some kids on our team through the full all four grades. Our senior class last year was humongous. We had 26 or 28 kids. Our junior class is pretty small. We only have 10. But our sophomore class is really big, and so is our freshman class, and so all those guys move up. So we'll probably have about 98 kids, and there's only a few that play both ways. But yeah, they practice a full hour and 45 minutes on defense.
You earned kudos in my book. But on a serious note, you have like a lot of extensive high level experience. Um, how have you been able to take that and really chunk it down to like different high schools at different high school levels? Because it kind of changes depending on each school.
The my philosophy is the same. Like when I got hired at Bonneville, they ran a rocket offense and they ran a cover three defense and it was like super simple and the word that I got was it's you can't be too complicated. The kids just won't get it, and I don't really believe that. I think it's kind of like anything with learning. If you're interested in it, you're gonna pick it up. And so I just kind of keep the same. Try to teach the fundamentals of what we're trying to do. Once they understand those concepts, everything just kind of takes off, and then we're able to build and grow off of that. So,
Okay, well, moving on to the next question, which is always an interesting one for me because I know there's different philosophies on this. There's guys that do, in fact, script and then they're off of it immediately. There's guys that are very, I guess, disciplined is the word and go through the first 12 to 15 plays. Do you script your first few plays? And if so, is there a certain system you use to do that?
yeah, I script my first 10. So like when I go through film, I watch the coverages and the blitzes. So I see what our the way our passing game works is we key on certain defenders. And so if I'm seeing that in their film, and so we also have an analyst that breaks down all of our games. And the coaches here in Idaho are pretty cool. You build relationships with them, and so they'll send you whatever you ask for. And so we usually get we try to get 3 games on every opponent, but sometimes some of our stuff we've had 6 games on them, and then we just break them down and get that data of what they're doing, and then we just go to work from there on which guys that we're going to attack that week and move on through that.
Nice. Um, as you guys move through that, how have you found that your kids have taken initiative and ownership over that process of scouting and getting ahead and researching their opponent, especially being your first year up in Idaho?
Not very good. The you know that's just the thing. Like the kids here. So I'm like the first on-campus coach for years, and like I've like I know the two coaches before me, and I've talked to them extensively, and like the big thing is like there was not a lot of accountability, and it's not their fault. They just weren't here, and so like we're kind of fighting that going back up. Just trying to get kids that to understand that school's important, going to class is important, watching film's important and stuff like that. So we're really having to kind of reteach that stuff and kind of put those the those building blocks into place. So it's been kind of a struggle last year, because I didn't want to go too heavy into everything, because obviously they've had nothing, and then my stuff is pretty like it's not, I don't spend like 10 hours a day with them, but we do put some work in, and so it's like this is the standard, this is what we need to do, and then next year it's like this summer it's going to be a little bit more added on until we get to the point where we need to be.
You already touched on it a little bit, but how do you walk me through a Saturday or a weekend or how you do it with your staff? Obviously, with Huddle, there's different ways to do it than we used to in the past, but how do you game plan for a specific opponent? And you talked a little bit about it with your key reading certain defenders in your pass game, but walk us through a typical preparation week.
So obviously I am the offensive coordinator, and so like I'll break down all the film, watch all that. I make sure I like see what I can get. Like for example, we played Skyline the last game of the season. They actually played in the state championship and lost. But their line was a lot smaller, their D line. And so we knew that we could take advantage of that in our run game. And we actually outgained them. It was like 300 and almost 400 yards to 300 yards. Like our problem was is we threw two pick sixes and then let a kick return for a touchdown. So that kind of dismantled our plan for that. But I just kind of see where we can take advantage of some things, and I think we ran for 170 yards that game, and so that's kind of how it is. And then once I get that, and then our defensive coordinator, he does the same thing, and then I'll take input from different coaches, like if they think, if our O-line coach thinks that, hey, we can do this, or I think this poll will be better for this week, and then we'll kind of put that into our game plan, and then we get the analyst from our guy that scouting report that builds our scouting report. We kind of give him all the information, and then it puts it out, and then Monday morning is when we send it out to everyone or to the team and all that stuff. So
A buck 70 on the ground is probably a universal record for an air raid group, so that's very impressive. But I like your Powerade concept. I think is interesting, so I'm excited to learn more about that. But what's your guys' balance on reflection and dissecting the previous week's performance versus looking ahead to your next opponent?
we do. I try not to do. I kind of learned this from Cody, where we kind of do the 10 play deal. Like it's like you pick 10 plays. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, and then we just kind of focus on that, and then go over that, and then move forward. I try not to dwell on like, oh, we could have done this, we could have done that, because at the end of the day, we didn't. So, but we definitely want to use those teaching moments and kind of point out, what we could have done. For example, we had a game against, our third game of the season was against Hillcrest, which is, they ended up winning the state championship. And they were like man pressing us. And so we kind of like gravitated towards more of like a run and shoot. So we have some run and shoot stuff in our offense as well. Which so like our guy, they have option routes, and we had what we wanted, but our quarterback just wasn't getting the ball where it needed to be, and it was kind of a bummer. Uh, but it wasn't. We pointed out, hey, this is the guy that we're trying to get to. He's open. We didn't see it, but let's make sure like we're not going to dwell on it. We're just going to make sure that we look for that if we have those opportunities later, and it worked out pretty well. So we went on a win streak after that, so it helped us a little bit.
Obviously, anytime you play a really difficult schedule, it prepares you for the rigors of the season. And if you can make it out, the biggest thing I think is always making out of it healthy. If you can make it out of it healthy. And the other thing that's so interesting to me is state to state, there's such a difference in how the playoffs are determined. Arizona's obviously a power ranking system where if you win the region championship in 4A in Arizona, it doesn't guarantee you anything as far as a playoff berth. It's everything is predicated on really your strength of schedule. Getting wins, obviously, being the number one priority, but being able to win football games and play a difficult schedule. There was a team this year was 9-1, didn't get into the state playoffs largely because their schedule probably wasn't the toughest. So I think that's interesting. Other thing, just to kind of get on a little bit of the program building type stuff, with somebody such as yourself who had such a unique experience, have coached both sides of the ball, have coached multiple positions. When you were putting your staff together, how did you go about assessing what you were going to coach and what everybody else was based on their strengths and the strengths of the staff you had coming in?
It's kind of like, so obviously I've watched all the podcasts that you guys had before, and so it was just kind of interesting when everyone's like, well, this is what I did. Like, I lived this moment this last past year. Like for me, it was finding a guy, a defensive guy that I could trust. And so my first hire was Frank Perez, which is my D coordinator. He was the offensive coordinator here several years ago, but he's actually from Flagstaff, Arizona, and it's kind of interesting. So we kind of have ties like that together for that. But we were on the phone nonstop, and he literally is. So we have a 0 period weightlifting. So it's actually we start at 6:45 a.m. and it goes till 7:45, and he is at every single one of those. He makes every summer practice. So it's like the two of us are the guys that kind of like run the program, because I don't have any other teachers that are on staff. And so that was the first guy. And then once I got him, he's like, hey, there's this guy, his name, he's an O-line coach, and he was the equipment guy. His name is Brian Mortensen. And so then we got him on board, and then all of a sudden, he's taking care of our equipment, making sure, like all our stuff is set. And then from there, it just kind of grew. And then there was, recommendations from the administration, like, hey, these guys want to be a part of it. They were a part of it. But the big thing for this first year is for stipends, you had to show up to 90% of team activities to be a full stipend. That was like weightlifting. So we had 11 coaches there. And like last year, we didn't have a 0 period. So they went and lifted from 6 a.m. till 7:30, 5 days a week. And so I had 11 coaches that were like, we're in. And they were there every day with those kids. And then from there, that's how I kind of figured out who was in it to win it. And so that's kind of who I went with. And then we only lost 3 coaches this year. And it wasn't necessarily because they didn't want to be a part of the program. It's just 2 of them were young guys that had they just had babies. And one had a baby, and he was trying to he owns his own business as a barber, and it was just kind of pulling from that. So, we lost 2 from that. And then our other guy we lost because his wife decided that she was going to go get her doctorate degree, and she kind of supported him. So he's like, hey, you know what? It's time for me to support you. And that's kind of how it worked. So like we've really kept guys in, and and the thing is not all the guys are the best like X's and O's guys. But the thing is my big thing is you want to find people that are good people that display the characteristics that you want in your program. We can always learn and teach the X's and O's. And so if there's, like I have a receiver coach that he was a receiver coach and he was a video guy. And so at the early start, we had a guy that was going to be the JV OC, but he ended up becoming a principal at our school, or an assistant principal, so he couldn't do it. And so I asked this guy, I was like, hey, I want you to call the plays because you know all the signals because you're the signal guy. And he's like, well, I don't know if I really feel comfortable with that. And I was like, well, we'll do it together for the first, few games until you figure it out. And so that's what we did. The first few games, we both kind of did it. And then all of a sudden he took over and he was able to do it. And it was awesome. And I got to watch, and kind of evaluate kids. So, but that's my big thing is just people that know, how to be good people and how to be good role models. If they're not as strong in the X's and O's, we can always figure that out. We can always teach them. So,
It sounds like you guys have a really close knit group, and I'm sure it was a huge help, especially moving north up the country quite a ways and just establishing yourself there. With those guys, and I'm assuming they're coming from different backgrounds and coaching philosophies and whatnot, how did you go about incorporating people into your system, specifically on the offensive side, and then defensively, how did you guys navigate and figure that out? Did you let him run his system? Is it a blend of yours and his? Were you guys the same?
no, actually, so the defensive system that we are running was what I ran in college when I played at Mayville State. So Humberto Rodriguez was the D coordinator there. We actually flew him out to Idaho Falls. He lives in Moorhead, Minnesota. So we flew him out here last April, and he had a kind of a week-long coaching clinic with my coaches. And then we do so unlike Arizona where you can do football all year round, we only can do it 10 hours in the off season. So we do a mini camp from 6 a.m. to 7:30 Monday through Friday, 1 week during the season in April. And so he came out and he just kind of was making sure everything that he was. So we would meet with the coaches the night before, kind of go over what we're going to install, make sure they understand it. And then the next day they would put it in. We beat that night. And then we did that and they started picking it up. And so I wanted to do that kind of system because I knew, I don't remember it exactly forwards and back from when I played, but I remember key things about it. So that way, if I'm on the sideline and I hear something or I see something, I can make an adjustment or, say, hey, we lost contain. We got to make sure that, this guy's got to bump down and this guy's got to slide over and stuff like that. As for offense, it was a little different because they ran that rocket offense, rocket toss, and then going from that from tiny splits to big splits was a little bit taken used to, but everyone picked up and everyone knows it, so it worked out.
Well, I wanted to take a second as you were talking about that and make sure I give a shout out to our equipment guy, Coach Robert Kronberg, who does an amazing job. That's such an important factor in your program, having a good equipment guy. And I think you said your equipment guy does offensive line too. That guy is gold. That is a big,
Yeah.
big deal to have
Yeah.
somebody that is able to do both of those things. So next question, wanted to look at, what does your call sheet look like?
Well, it looks different than the one that I had with you. That's for sure. So I don't like this year, I didn't really have a call sheet. It all came from my head, just because, I'll put a few plays on there because, things that I don't think about, kind of like when you get into a situation where you need something and you just don't have an answer. So I'll put a few plays this next year. It'll be a little different. It'll be more kind of like what we ran in Prescott because we will have a wristband because our two back sets, they're a little bit wordy to signal them in because we of motions and stuff like that. So those will be all wristbands. So we'll do the same, wristband signals that Prescott does with Tully. And then if we go into the like single back set, because the big thing is I want to keep the personnel, so I try to have big receivers that can play tight ends and fullbacks, so that way we don't have to change personnel, because I think when you change personnel, defense can kind of pick that out of what you're trying to do. So I try to keep the same personnel, but we do have a little bit of different personnel packages that we can run. Um, but yeah, so this year it'll be a little bit different just because of the wristbands. So
When you are looking at the defense and how to attack the given opponent, how is your balance between, my guys are good in these positions, and maybe the defense is strong there as well, or the defense is weak here and this isn't maybe our strongest point either? How do you balance kind of the good and bad
well,
players?
I look to see what the scheme is first. So like if if it's for example cover three, if you're running cover three, we're gonna take what you give us. So you're gonna give us the flats, we're gonna take the flats, and so it goes from that standpoint first. But then we have a lot of pre-snap reads where we get one-on-ones, and so if I feel that my receiver is better than your defender, we'll probably hit those right off the bat because they're pre-snap reads. And so you'll see kind of like, I don't know if you watched Prescott last year when we had um, Gunnerman out there who was just super fast. And so, like, we could just chuck him the ball, which then breaks everything up. Everyone has to step back, and then we can play underneath. So it's the same type of deal. We just look to see where we have the advantages and kind of start working at that to get to what we want.
How do you go about establishing your vertical alignment from your freshman to your JV to your youth level? I know you've been extensively involved in youth programs. How, what was the process in doing that, and how did you go about trying to establish that? And have you? Because that can take a long time to get going in terms of having your youth levels kind of doing what you want them to do, so your kids are getting that in pieces. And obviously, the most successful programs that I've seen, particularly in Arizona and other places, have a good feeder program that's used similar systems. So how did you go about establishing that?
So the our youth program was called Grid Kid, or Upper Grid Kid Valley is what it's called. So each team has their, like, it's not like Arizona where you can just make up a team and they could, you can pull from anywhere. So they're all boundaried. So the kids all have to play based on their address to the. That doesn't mean that they have to go to that high school, because it's open enrollment for high school, but you have to be boundaried in or go to a certain school to play on a team. And so when I got here, I met with the Grid Kid director. His name is Cash McKinley. And so we set up coaching clinics for their coaches to come, and I told them, I was like, here's the deal. You can run whatever you want. I can't stop you from doing that. But if you get your kids on board and they run this program or this terminology, as like, it doesn't even have to be the same stuff. Just use the same terminology. So that way they know it. So like if they're running it fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, when they come to freshman, they'll know the whole basic package, so that we don't have to spend all that time re-implementing that. We can actually go on to bigger stuff and more complex stuff. And so so far, and then we do every Tuesday night, our coaches after practice. So all the little grid kids, they practice at our field. So we have one, two, four, five practice fields. So there's like three like together, and then we have like the old game field that's a practice field with lights, and then we have our game field in a different section. But they all practice out there, and so we send some of our players to go to their practices and just kind of be a presence there. And then we send each coach is assigned different teams. So like last year I was assigned to one of our seventh grade teams, so I go over and talk to the coaches if they had any questions about our scheme or what they're trying to do, or they would just ask. We would give them input on that. And then but and there was a good mix of like one of our seventh grade or eighth grade teams ran more of our stuff. One of them, had kind of been running the same offense for a while, and they have different levels. They have A League, B League, and C League. So the A League is the upper echelon. So the goal is to be an A team. So they were an 18 team, and they've been running the same offense for several years, and they didn't want to really upset that balance. So they did, like, they changed some of the terminology, but they still kind of ran their stuff, but then tried to change it. So, and those are kids are now coming into that'll be freshmen next year. So they have an idea of what we're running, and the terminology is, so they can like identify. So our 2x2 set is ace, so they know, oh, yep, that's ace. All right, perfect, cool, and then we just go from there.
If I understood this correctly, so you could have a kid who attends a different high school in open enrollment, but because of boundaries, are they then required to play at a different school than the one they attend?
Yeah. So, well, no. So, okay, for example, so if you live in the Bonneville boundary, you have to play. If you play grade kid football, so fifth. I think we go fifth through eighth grade. You have to play for a Bonneville team. Now, after eighth grade, you can choose. So we actually have, there's a kid at Rigby High School that is a sophomore this year. He lives across the street from our high school, and he is really good. And he chose, after his eighth grade year, to go to Rigby, which is about 10 miles away, but they're a 6A powerhouse. And so he chose to go there. And so, like, he can go there. And then here, we don't have the six. You sit out half a year. If you transfer, you sit out a whole year here, unless you can fight it through an appeals. So,
Okay, that
so we
makes
do
sense.
have kids that transfer, and some kids, they get through and they get to play, and then other kids don't, and they sit a whole year from varsity. They can play JV or sub varsity.
Interesting stuff there. I always like hearing about those things that's specific to those state organizations and different things of that manner. Both Arizona and Idaho are open enrollment states, so interesting. It seems like Idaho, though, after you've kind of made that pick, has a little bit stricter things in place than certainly Arizona does. As you know from coaching with me a little bit, I'm not a big add a new play week to week, but how do you go about tweaking your offensive system to best fit the game plan and best fit those things, or do you go add new plays and different things like that?
No, we don't really add new plays, because so the our we can install our full offense in 20 practices. And so we like kind of like we do our spring. So like our spring in April, we'll do our 10 practices, uh, or our five. We'll do 5 practices, but we'll kind of, since we have an hour and a half and we don't actually have full contact stuff, we can actually install two a day. So that 5 days we'll get 10 practice. We'll get 10 installs in. And then once the school ends, we do summer, and we go 4 days a week, and there is no restriction on that. So we go 7 to 9:30, and we're just loading. Like, they go lifting. We have a sprint circuit that they do, because we want the kids to be conditioned, because we don't condition during the season. So we condition them in the off season so that they're conditioned by the time the season comes. And then we spend that other 30 minutes, 45 minutes of install just running plays over and over again. And so we don't do add plays. We might add a tweak to our formation or an adjustment. Like, so my first 2 games, we didn't do any motion whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, third, fourth, fifth game, we started doing motions and doing shifts and stuff like that. So we try to just kind of, see what we can get, where we can get the advantages, what defender we can put in a bad position, and go from there.
What was the impetus for you guys making that tweak?
For the motion,
Yeah, just that shift to
so
shift.
just the reason why, like, I just, because it's just so the the big thing for me is, if an offense, so they watch film on our first 2 games and they see zero motion, so they're not going to expect it. So then when they see that motion, that puts a hesitation in the defender, whether it's a second or 2 seconds or whatever, because he's never seen it on film. He's never, and so if I can get that split second of indecision, then I win to what I'm trying to do. And so that's the big thing is like the plays will always be the same, but we might have a puller come from a different spot, just so that way we can cause that indecision because when you do that, you just you open it up for yourself to be successful because if that linebacker is coming downhill really hard, but then now he sees something different and that delays him, well, now we can get it sealed and we can probably, run. So
We touched on it a little bit, but I always find this interesting. Walk us through how you install your offense, and maybe walk us through a typical practice. How you guys go about doing that? Time constraints. How many periods do you have? You've said you have guys going one way, so that certainly should make it so you can be pretty efficient on the practice field. But how do you go about installing your offense, and how does that relate to your practice plans?
so the same thing is so this year was a little different because we had a 0 week, so we only got 10 days before our first game. So most teams get 15 practices, but we got 11 because we can practice. We had to practice on Saturday to get 11 because you have to have 10 practices before you can play in a first game. So basically we had 11. Most kids had, or teams had 15 because they get the 3 weeks. So it was a little bit harder for us because, and that was, kind of the other point of the no motion is that I don't have to practice that, so I don't have to put that in. So it just takes the chunk out. But we practice Tuesday, so we go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Monday is a half pad practice. Tuesday and Wednesday is a full pad practice, and then Thursday we practice. So we have a 0 period class. So that Thursday we do a run through on the game field, and that's in the morning during that weightlifting time. And then Thursday is a walkthrough, and then we play the game. Our practices are we go from 3:40 as pre-practice. We actually start practice at 4. So at 3:40, they're out there doing their warm-ups. We do a dynamic warm-up, so they're all lined up across the whole length of the field, and then they do this warm-up, and then it's 22 periods, 5-minute periods. We do a lot of, like our running backs, they take handoffs for 15 straight minutes, and all of our plays look the same. So, like, I can call out, Mustang, which is our GT, is the same as Patriot, which is power. So the handoff is the same, and so it doesn't matter what I call. Like we always do the same. So they did literally 15 minutes straight every day of taking handoffs, and so we really work on that, which I think has helped us because we only had one fumbled handoff the whole year, because we spend so much time on that. We spend 15 minutes straight running routes, and there's certain routes that we'll run for the day, and just keep doing. We do 10 minutes of screens, quick screens, even though we didn't run as many quick screens as I would have liked to. But we just didn't have. We had a quick scat guy, but his hands were not always. I couldn't count on it, so it was like, but he could run deep and catch it. So it was just kind of, we didn't do as many screens, but we practiced it all the time because we did do it. When we did do it, it was successful. We do inside haul, we do skelly, we do team every day. We do 15 minutes of live tackling, like to the ground, every day, so, or at least, well, 2 of the 3 days because the half pad we don't tackle, but and then defense, they do tackling circuit every day. They do pursuit drills every day. We do, we'll do things where we'll do like 2-on-3, so 2 receivers versus 3 defenders to make sure that we get those looks that we want, because our receivers, look for spaces and holes in the defense and stuff like that. And so, like, if we run a slant, they could run a slant, but if there's a hole, they could sit in the slant, so, or sit in that gap. So just a lot of stuff, and it's just we try to keep it fast moving, so everyone's running around, so that way, no, there's not a lot of standing around. So
What role do you have your assistants play in, planning practice maybe for their indie sessions and whatnot in conjunction that would relate to your team concept for the day?
So I have like the very first like my 20 plays or 20 practices that like kind of script out. This last year it was like, hey, these are the first 20 practices. It needs to be this. From there, after that, when we get to 21 through whatever, you can swap out the drills to what you see fit. But I want these first 20 in here because these are the foundation of the offense and defense. And so it worked out really well. The blocks are laid because of that, and then some of the drills they kept. But the big thing is every Monday it's the same stuff. So every Tuesday is the same stuff. Every Wednesday is the same stuff. So it was like, I don't care what the drill is, but it has to be whatever reflecting on this. Because I'm really big in repetition. And like when I was in the Army, we used to practice these rollover drills for when Humvees roll over. And then when we did them a million times, and it got so boring that I was just like, this is so stupid. Why do we keep doing this? And then in Iraq, when it actually happens, I knew exactly what to do, and I didn't even have to think. And so that's like my big philosophy is we're going to do something so many times that we don't have to think about it anymore. And it's just second nature. And then we can play faster.
Love it, Coach. Of the many coaching podcasts I watch, I stole this one, I think, from 614 Headsets. I'm not sure exactly, but I thought this one was a fun one. Before we get into you sharing your screen and walking us through some concepts in your offense, if you had to pick 5 concepts, run and pass, which ones would you install? If you only had five total, and I'll go first, we'd go power, counter, cross. Some people call it Yankee, where you have the cross route and the skinny post, and nakeds and floods there. That's one. And the last one would be IZAB. So we had an inside play, which is kind of stole that from Ferris State, a little inside ISO, fold ISO type play. I always thought that would be, I was watching that, and I thought that was really a fun one to do with guys, because I always feel like Mike Leach said this, the problem really is never that you don't have enough plays. So I think it's interesting to kind of break that down if you had to. And I know Coach Brusso shocked because I wouldn't have G in there. And that was a really tough call. I could easily replace IZABs with G in there as well. Obviously, kind of a gap scheme guy, lend myself to that line of thinking. But 5 concepts offensively, run and pass, pick them.
So counter, power, ISO, and then I really like a quick game and mesh or cross. It's tough between the two. We weren't super good at mesh this year, and we weren't very good at cross, but those are 2 of my favorite concepts because if you get kids that know what they're doing, it's very successful. But we weren't in that spot this last year, but those are my favorite plays.
Coach Bruce, I know you're a defensive guy, but you want to take a stab at this one?
Cover 3, cover 2.
Well, just thinking offensively, the things that I hate to go against, the things that I find are most successful, at least against defenses, RPOs can put you in a bind, and then if you can incorporate some type of read option with the QB off of that, that always presents a challenge. And the teams that we've struggled the most with teams I've been a part of are those just heavy hitting, downhill, just big but quick, like the wing T and the veer type teams. We played St. Mary's one year in the state playoffs in 21, and they weren't athletically extremely gifted or talented, but they just would fall forward for 3 or 4, and that just goes and goes and goes. Similar to Bradshaw, which you guys are familiar with. So those are the teams that I most loathe defending. So yeah.
Death by 1,000 cuts can definitely be a difficult one
It's just so slow and
absorb.
painful.
All right, well, this is the part of the show that I've really been looking forward to. We're going to turn it over to Coach Stephenson. He's going to walk us through some base concepts in his offense, and we'll shoot some questions out there as he goes through, but we're going to listen for a while. and go through some film and some other stuff on Huddle. So take it over, Coach.
All right. So let me. Oh, wait. All right. So I picked. Obviously, the conversation was one run play and one pass play. And so the big thing for me is our quick game. So I picked a quick game. Our quick game, we can run it out of every formation. So I'll start with the pass first, just because. So this is ace black. So this is a 2x2 set. And so what we do is you can see, so the quarterback uh, chooses the side pre-snap. So our quarterbacks look for leverage in the defense. Where can we get this? So this play is designed to. This is the only play that we have in our quick game that actually we have to go right or left, because the running back has to know where he's going. And so what we do is like our progressions are the stick, arrow, and then the check down. So you can see we got a little stick here, and then here's our arrow, and then here's our check down. Now we have two pre-snap reads on this. So it just depends on where the defender is. So like if they run like a press on this RZ, we're probably going to pop this. As soon as their quarterback catches that ball, he's going to set his feet, and then he's going to let it go. Same thing we can do on this backside slant. If we have position, if that corner is on playing outside, we get inside, then we'll throw that. But normally, we're playing this defender right where the one is. So this overhang defender is who we're trying to go after. And so I have two plays out of this that I'll kind of show you. Let me see if, let me know if you guys get the full screen on this.
We can see it.
So,
Looks
Let
good.
me ask you,
okay.
Coach. I've seen. I don't want to divert the subject, but I've seen a lot of Idaho teams. What time do you guys start ball games? You guys play Saturday games, afternoon games, or
So
what? 'Cause it's a lot of picture.
this one is kind of a weird one. So this is our second game of the season, and this was their first game of the season. But Boise had some fires last year, so we were actually supposed to play this game in Boise, but they were not allowed to play. So that morning they decided to. So whenever Boise's 4 hours away. So if we play a Boise team, our younger levels will play earlier in the day. And so it was kind of one of those deals where they were coming over because there was a fire. That's why they have home uniforms and we're home, is because it was just kind of a weird deal. So that's why it's so light out, because the game started earlier than, because we weren't even supposed to have the game. So that's why it's kind of a weird deal. Um, but yeah, so most of it, because our JV and freshmen will play Thursday nights. So if we play a Boise school, so normally we play at 4 and 7 for freshmen and JV. But if we play a Boise school, they'll play at 2:30 and 4:30. So those kids aren't spending all night. Well, for Boise, these kids were literally here yesterday or the day before, because their freshmen and JV played here, and then their backups, like, because the JV kids are like backups. They play because you get 5 quarters of play here, and so they ended up taking the bus all the way back to Boise, and then get back on the bus the next day and coming. Well, they didn't know until um, I think it was 9 in the morning when they decided that we're gonna change the venue. So it's kind of a weird deal.
Interesting.
Yeah. So okay. So we're up against. So this is Bishop Kelly. They were the not last year, but the year before, they were the state champs. So we got them in the second game of the season. So we are. So as you can see, they have a 4-man front, but then they have this little. This is the overhang defense. Can you guys see my little arrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this little guy right here, this is the guy we're reading. So he is looking like he's going to blitz. So our quarterback should throw this as soon as he catches the ball. Um, unless he starts to bail. So, because this is the guy we're trying to play. So, this guy, normally, if he stays back, he's either going to cover him or he's going to cover this back. So, this is the guy we play. So, he comes, and our quarterback just gets rid of it. So, I don't know if you. Oh,
That was good stuff, Coach. Let me ask you. I know you had talked about if they were pressing there on the outside, is the fact that they got a safety a bit capping that. Did that play into any of the thinking? But we got the corner pressed up there on the outside.
yeah. So,
That play.
he could have thrown this if he wanted to, because this guy's open. So, like, I don't know if I can get it to. So right there, we're open. So I always tell the guys if we have position, we're open. So he could have thrown this deep if he wanted to, but I think our tight end, this guy right here, is six. He's big, so I think he was thinking that he's got inside position, and he's it's a safer throw because we want high percentage throws, and so he knew he could get this one in there, and so like that's why as soon as he catches that ball, he just throws it, and then we gained I don't know 5 yards out of it, 6 yards, and that's
Well,
all
you
we
can
care
tell this
about.
is a pretty good football team because they are closing on the football
Oh
very,
yeah,
very well. So this is
yeah,
obviously a good football team you're playing here.
yes, they are extremely good. Like I said, they were the state champions the year before, um, and they're very well coached. So let me. So and then I'll go to this next one. This one's a little bit cleaner because we're running to the open. So we now it's to the open side of the field, so you can actually see. So this is the overhang defender here that we're trying to play. So you can watch this guy here um, because he does exactly what we want him to do. So the ball snapped. He chases that running back, and then we throw it right behind him, and then he breaks the tackle, scores a touchdown. So
That's a big body too. There is that
yeah,
looked a little more slant like. Is there? Did he adjust that route, or are there any things that would
yeah,
trigger that adjustment?
he came inside a little bit more. Here's the backside view if you guys want to. So he because we tell him to go for we tell our receivers to go find space. So they want to go sit in the holes of the defense. And so he's just adjusting because he sees that big giant this hole right here. And so that's where he's trying to get to. And so that's he just runs into there and breaks the tackle and we score.
As a large
Good
slot
stuff
receiver.
here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We try to. That's he's our tight end actually. So we try to. Um, like I said, we want to have uh, big guys so that way because when we move him down into the actual tight end, um, he can block. So here's the same concept out of trips. So it's the same deal. We still got the pre-snap go. We still got the stick. We still got the arrow. And then instead of two receivers over here, we just have the single side. So, and then we kind of give our tailback, he can kind of leak up the middle for a check down, or a lot of times he'll just swing outside here to see if we get this defender on the left side, if he chooses to, he can throw down on that. So this is out of trips. So this is Hillcrest. This is our rival, and they were the state champ. Last year they were runner up. They lost to BK, and then this year they actually won the state championship. They beat Skyline. So we spread everyone out. We always do space, so we want all this space here because then it makes it harder for the defenders to uh, like close down when we have so much space. So we do this on purpose. We try to get in our line splits are normally supposed to be really wide too. Um, but so we're playing this defender right here. This overhang is who we're trying to go after. So see how he chases and then we sit right down behind him. And then there's another 6 yard gain. Let's
Staying
see if we
ahead
can
of
get.
schedule, staying ahead of the chains
Yep.
there. You guys are beefy up front.
Yeah, we had a good sized line, but we just like they just weren't. really aggressive and punishing. They could pass block really well. It was the weirdest thing. We kind of figured it out we went to so up here in Idaho, we can go to a teen football camp with full pads, and
I
so we
remember you posting a picture of it snowing, and
yeah
last year that one was awesome. That's
yeah.
very cool.
So we went to Montana State for this camp, and we played some of the top Montana teams, and like the first day we were just lighting them up in the air, and then we would try to run, and we couldn't get anything, and it was like so weird, and so like the next day I was just really trying to push the run, and we just weren't as successful as we wanted to be, and so that's kind of like the where we're like, well, we're gonna throw, and then when people start backing off, we'll start running. And so, and it worked. Like we didn't run as well as we wanted. We only had 700 and some yards. I wanted to be at least 1,500 yards, but it is what it is, and we took what the defense gave us, and so that's just kind of how last year went. And so this year, or this game here, so this is the same deal. This is against Skyview. This game we actually ran for a ton and we passed for a ton. And so you can see we are split out trips again. But this one, let me go back. So this overhang defender, where is it? So they have a mess up here. So they're trying to he's trying to bump over. So this is the overhang defender that we're actually playing, and he bails out. So our quarterback just throws the ball instantly because he's like obviously he's making a mistake or he's adjusting his coverage. So he just ends up throwing it right away. You can see that again. So we can see how he bails. And then that other defender, he takes that arrow. So you can see him, he chases the arrow. And so then that gives us position. And so we throw it. And we tell our quarterbacks, even if the defender's behind him, he's still open. So we tell him to throw it anyways. So that's kind of what we do. All of our stuff is exactly like this. I mean, obviously if there was more plays, I could show you different, we do, like slant wheels and stuff like that, for the passing stuff. And then, for our run game, do you want me to go into the run game stuff or we still
Yeah,
got
that
time?
would be great.
Okay.
Before you can get into Inside Zone, my question is, do you want to run it? This is always the question you see a ton on Inside Zone. Do you want to run it at the shade or at the 3?
It doesn't matter for us. So our blocking, so we can block, we read every single run play. So we have an option on every single run play. Our big thing is we have, five linemen. So we are accountable for 5 guys. So if they have, multiple guys in the box, like, 8, then we change the play to a pass or a screen on the outside. So like so as you can see here, we always read this backside end, and then we always leave this defender unblocked. So because our philosophy is, we're just trying to get 3 yards. So for him to come over top and make a tackle, we're hoping that we get 6 yards. Now sometimes our line, I had a really good play. That was against Skyline that I was going to show originally, but we missed the block on it, and then our running back just made the defender miss. And so then I was like, well, I don't want to put that in there because that kind of defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do. So, but this is our quarterback. So what happens is they are going to send 2 guys on the outside. Now, normally when we have 2 outside defenders, on the outside, we do not normally pull the ball because if one is smart and takes the runner and the other one stays in the zone, he's going to tackle us. So usually we give it, but this team was like super hyper aggressive. And so he comes up on this outside here, and he goes inside, and so our quarterback keeps it, and he just runs all the way up the middle for a touchdown.
He certainly did a nice job reading that, and they were usually I've seen people like you said, Coach, when there's two off the edge, we're going to automatically give it here, but they really
Yep.
little twist game here from the outside backer and defensive end, and he did a nice job pulling that football and getting out there on the edge.
Yeah, a lot of teams will start doing a technique called surf. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but what they do, let me see if I can get it, is so this guy cuts in, and then this guy would do a surf technique where he would come out and he would just kind of sit like he's on a surfboard, waiting to see where the ball, so he could go inside and stay outside. If we start seeing that, that makes it a little harder for us. We just usually just give it. And then if if that outside defender is really giving us havoc of that, we will do a quarterback counter, and so our running back would come across and he would block that guy, and then our quarterback would take it up the middle. So
Nice job by your receivers there blocking downfield too as well. I thought they did a nice job recognizing that with that safety walk down. You always know you're alerted to a possible blitz, and Ford does a good
yeah,
job cutting them off here.
yeah, they we had our kids this year, we were super talented. Our senior class was really talented, probably the best I've ever inherited as a coach coming in. Uh, the problem is just they had been so used to the culture, and then switching it was kind of hard. So here's the same play. The reason I selected this one is because so we run motion across. This is our last game of the season. So we run a motion. Well, this defender crashes inside. And so what we teach our guys is if our linemen, if the defender crosses your face, we attack. And so, like, normally he's supposed to be kicking him out so we can run inside of him, but he comes across his face. And so our running backs, he bounces this and then rolls on to the outside. So we send that motion across. So we're trying to get to see that they're man. So they're moving that. So you can see 77, this guy comes inside of him. And then this is actually Skyline. These guys played in the state championship. So this is another Idaho Falls. So two Idaho Falls schools played in the championship this year. This was the runner-up, and we had 160 yards rushing on these guys. So he blitzes inside, or he comes inside, and then our running back just takes it to the outside, and then he's up the sideline.
You guys really are seeing a lot of aggressive defenses. People seem to be challenging your receivers and those type of things, crowding the line of scrimmage quite a bit on some of the film
Yeah,
we've seen here.
yeah. It's like we usually have in our conference we have someone that's in the championship almost every year. So it's a tough conference that we play in, and I enjoy it. Um, Here's another look at it. You can see so their line. We knew we could run because their line is a little bit smaller than us, and so we kind of bullied them around a little bit on the line. It's just unfortunately we had two pick sixes that it's really tough to come back from.
Coach, when you guys are running your inside zone against that bear front or TNT, whatever you want to call it, where you got the center and both guards covered, how are you trying to get up to that one linebacker? Because I know that can be pretty difficult when all five of those guys have a guy. Obviously, that backside tackle's not going to block the end. He can maybe get up there, but do you have a different way to attack that? Or
Usually if we get into that bear, it's just Bob. We just and then we just hope, so it kind of turns into like a little blast type deal where we don't, we're just trying to go for as many yards as we can. So we don't really have either that or we check out of that play. So like a lot of times just, or we can motion. So we'll motion like this big receiver right here. We'll motion and he can ISO to get that if we try. Like there's a couple different things, but a lot of times it's just, if like I said, we only go for five guys. So if we want six to be blocked, then we need to bring a sixth guy in. But we don't, I don't expect our kids to you know, if they're Bob and we can't get that seal because they're just better than us, then we're not going to try to climb and leave ourselves open underneath, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
So here's the last one on the run. This one is just we get what we want, and he so the play is supposed to go outside here a little bit more, in right inside, but the way that we get this blocked, he just runs right up the middle. So it worked out really well for us, and we just ran right up the middle.
I love that downhill football. Love that. Stick your foot in the ground, get north and south, son. Get up in there. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is our second. I think we threw a ton in this game, and um, in fact, our defensive end, he actually intercepted the ball and ran for a touchdown in this game. So
Nice job by your center there as well, using that inside arm, kind of gun under his armpit there, and
yeah,
tossed one for a ride there. Good cut by the running back off of it.
yeah. The crazy thing is two of these guys on this team. So on the defense, number 0 and number 5, they're D1. They went to University of Idaho. One went to Boise State, and one went to Idaho. So they're and number 10, he could have been he was also a quarterback. These guys were tough.
You
The
guys
fact
have
that we
obviously played a very difficult schedule. I mean, just
yeah
looking at the teams athletically, there's some good looking guys out there, and credit to you guys for being able to get in the playoffs there and do such a good job. Obviously, trying to still establish some stuff there. Anything else you'd want to show us, Coach? I really enjoyed. I could do this part all day where we're talking
yeah
plays and
I
going
don't
through this type of stuff.
I don't really
Appreciate it.
have anything prepared. I
That's fine.
mean, like if you guys, I can definitely show you stuff. But we label most of the stuff when we put it in there. So well, most of the time. But I can usually find certain if there's something that you're trying to like I said, we ran. We had a double slant wheel that we ran that was pretty good for us. Our receiver number 4 was super fast. He kind of he hurt his hamstring towards the end of the year, so it kind of hindered us a little bit. Um, but yeah, the game against Skyline, the one that I showed you, or Skyview, that last run, that I mean, we just tore them apart. They knew we were going to throw, so I was kind of worried because their AD, when we pull up on the bus, he's like, "Oh, you guys like to throw it?" And I was like, "Well, we like to take what you give us." And the fact that we threw for 400 and some yards, we were 10 of 13, was just crazy. And our quarterback threw 3 touchdowns. Actually, he had 4, but one got called back at the very beginning of the game. We run a smash. It's called smash Z kill. So we run, the corner. So we run a corner route. The inside guy runs a whip route to the outside, and then the other receiver will run a corner, and then our whoever has the kill will fake like he's going to do a whip, like he's coming inside, and then he'll break to the middle. And so that was a huge play for us. We ran a Z kill, X kill, on multiple opponents and scored touchdowns or big plays too. So especially against those cover 2 teams that we see a lot of. So there's a lot of cool stuff, and it'll be exciting to this year. Um, our quarterbacks are a little bit. We have one coming back, and then we have a younger one that had a really good JV season, and then he actually came in at halftime in one of our games and threw for almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns and won us the game. So,
That's pretty dang
um,
impressive.
yeah,
Let,
so he's
let me ask
actually
you this, Coach. Playing in such a challenging conference and region there, what did you learn this first year, and what do you think you can use that knowledge to help better your program in future years?
well. The big thing I learned is just mental toughness. I mean, this year we actually um, so there's 5 high schools in our area. So 3 of them are in our district, and 2 of them are in the Idaho Falls. So the Idaho Falls district is like the inner city, like the inner town of, and then the District 93, which I'm in, is like the outskirts. And so we played Thunder Ridge, which is they're a rival, but I wouldn't say they're a rival, but they are a rival because half of the kids that went there came from our school. Um, but we were down the whole game. It was 14 nothing. And 6 minutes in the game, we score 14 points, go into overtime, and then win the game in overtime. And that has never happened in the history of our school to come down. You know, like the last past coaches have like told me they're like, you know, we've never seen that before. So you know, that's awesome. And then there was another. So we had two close games like that where we pulled it out at the end, and you know, just building that mental toughness. And we do a thing called winning time every day for lifting, and it's some sort of mentally physical challenge. So it'd be like, you know, doing push-ups or planks for 2 minutes, and then you know, our wall sits for 2 minutes, and we just pick different things to do to mentally, you know, like it starts out as a minute, and then we try to push to see how far we can go. And you know, like, because the saying is you can do anything you want for a minute. So like, if we can get into that mindset that, hey, we can do this for a minute, we can gain that yard if we want to. And so you know, that was just a big thing of doing that, and then we just continue to push that, and try to be mentally tougher. And everything that we do, our you know, our off season was pretty brutal last year for the kids. So there's kids that didn't want to come out or didn't want to, you know, and that was fine. You know, like I told, like I say, football has something for football's not for everyone, but it has something for everyone. And so like we just wanted to find the guys that wanted to be on the team, you know, and so we had some superstars that are just like, you know what, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, that's fine, you know, you don't have to play, and they chose not to, and it is what it is. And we still had a successful season. Maybe not wins wise is what we wanted, but you know, like I always tell the seniors, like if I had you a couple more years, it'd be a different scenario. But you know, it is what it is, and we got to move forward. And so now we're into that next batch. We have 10 seniors, and so we're really pushing hard and trying to get ready for the season.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate you joining us. I know I learned a ton. Excited to watch your journey as you continue to build the Bonneville Bees, and I always enjoy hearing your words of wisdom and talking to you. So thank you so much for joining us. Coach Brusso, if you want to give us some final thoughts.
Yep, I really appreciate you coming on. Like Coach Collette said, it's always great to see different perspectives, and then you know, getting a glimpse of state or football in a different state elsewhere is cool because it's the same language, but you know, there's some differences, and just in terms of operation. So I really appreciate you taking time, and it's good getting to chat with you.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I love your guys' show, and I keep watching. In fact, for some reason, I can't get it on the thing. It has the videos hidden, so I'm always bugging Cody. I'm like, hey, can you send it to me, or when are you posting it? So
We'll
I'm definitely
definitely send you
excited.
this one when it comes out. They come out Wednesday at 10 a.m. Arizona time. So,
Sounds good.
and just as a reminder, folks, please like and subscribe to the show. We're trying to reach as many folks as we can. Really grateful to Coach being on the show tonight, and next week we'll talk a little wing tea, hopefully. So, thanks a lot, everybody. Enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday and have a great week.
See you guys.